This video has been brought to you by Surfshark VPN. Look alive, nefarious. Ratchet's hacking into your mainframe again. Should've used a VPN, idiot. All kinds of scary things are out there on the internet. Surveillance, web limitation, data mining, lombaxes happens all the time without you even knowing. But with Surfshark VPN, you do have an easy one-for-all solution. Across many different products as well, Windows, Android, or Apple, with the click of a button, Surfshark turns you into an anonymous and hard-to-track user, giving you more freedom on the internet, keeping you away from prying eyes, and prevents companies from doing things like geo-blocking, where video and streaming services limit your library simply because of where you live. But fret not, Surfshark makes all of that a non-issue. You start at their service, you choose your location, you refresh the page, and there you go, your favorite show that you couldn't watch before. I don't think Netflix carries Secret Agent Clank though. And those that use the link in the description below and enter the special code Johnny will not only get 83% off their initial order, but the next 3 months are also completely free. Thanks to Surfshark VPN for the sponsor. Thank you as always for your continued support. Now let's continue on with the show. Okay, third game in the series. Now, from my experience, this is either where the series really starts to hit its stride, or you can start seeing the cracks. So where does Ratchet and Clank Up Your Arsenal fall in that regard? Alright, with the success of both games, what started as a series that had up to 45 people involved in development was now sitting at over 120 plus by the beginning of Up Your Arsenal's creation. And as was the case with Going Commando, the goal for the next game was to do everything before, but bigger and better, and this time add some multiplayer. Now, a studio wanting to go large with each successive game is nothing new, but seeing as Up Your Arsenal was only a year after Going Commando, which itself was only a year after the original Ratchet and Clank, you can't help but start to wonder, larger staff or not, were things starting to feel a little crammed in Insomniac games? Well, without getting into the nitty-gritty of Insomniac games circa 2004, I found Up Your Arsenal to be quite frankly amazing. I loved it as much as Going Commando, maybe even a little more so, but a couple of things in the game definitely reeked of compromise. We'll get into it. With the menace of the proto-pet kaput, Ratchet and Clank are, once again, considered full-blown heroes of the galaxy. Clank's even found himself as the star of Secret Agent Clank, your run-of-the-mill James Bond parody that even sees Ratchet playing the role of Clank's thankless chauffeur that kept making me think of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. If you thought Ratchet got off too easy with his dickish behavior in the first game, Up Your Arsenal should make you positively giddy with the number of times everyone makes Ratchet here feel so secondary, even though again he does all the heavy lifting. My dude must have pulled the Rodney Dangerfield in his last tarot card reading, gets no respect. And it is all played for laughs, of course, but I honestly started to feel a little bad for the dude. I guess Angela Cross was also a one and done deal because her ass just fucking vanished and she's nowhere to be seen in this game at all, bearing one small cameo at the very end of the game. And for some reason she's back in her thief costume again. Okay. But the work of a true hero never ends. Ratchet's home planet of Veldin is suddenly under attack by the Tyrannoids, led by Dr. Nefarious, an incredibly loud and sinister mad scientist that, one, has his butler Lawrence perform sign language during his villain speeches so they can't even fall on deaf ears. I love that. And two, with the help of his bio-obliterator, the Doctor plans to turn every organic creature in the Solana galaxy into robots, which he will then rule with a literal iron fist. Ratchet and Clank set off to their home galaxy to stop the invasion at Veldin and temporarily repels the Tyrannoids for the time, putting him on good terms with the nearby Galactic Rangers, a space army that's been trying to fight the Tyrannoid menace themselves, but are pretty bad at it. The commander is also a Bill Clinton parody? In 2004, was George Bush considered too on the nose at this time? Damn you, 9/11. With Ratchet made an impromptu sergeant of the Galactic Rangers thanks to his earlier efforts, the Rangers believe that the next step is locating Captain Quark, who went missing after the whole Megacore incident, and because he was at one time Dr. Nefarious' arch nemesis, they believe he might be the key to ending Nefarious' schemes once and for all. They gotta find Quark first, but that doesn't take very long. However, with him suddenly getting a case of the monkeys, they gotta knock some sense into him first to help regain his memories, which I took the utmost joy in doing because this guy, after what he did in the last 2 games, is a fucking asshole. With Quark back to normal, for better or worse, he's then made leader of the operation, forming the Q-Force consisting of Ratchet, Clank, and all of your favorite NPCs from the first Ratchet and Clank because, gotta give him something to do, I guess. The Galactic Rangers starship Phoenix acts as your central hub for this game, and occasionally your crew will even take time to exchange remarks, and it's not much, but I always enjoy the little things like that. It's still Ratchet that does most of the grunt work though, and he's got his work cut out for him, as the rest of the game is simply learning the whereabouts of Dr. Nefarious and then finally stopping his plans of galactic domination. Compared to last time, this story is much simpler and not nearly as muddled. A standard cookie-cutter adventure that supplies the action and the laughs. It's a James Bond film. It's not just Secret Agent Clank that runs with that. You could look at the whole plot as a Bond reference. And that would explain why Angela Cross isn't a thing here. That was always a running gag with Bond films, yeah, how Bond can never stick with one girl. And with how this game ends with implied romantic interest between Ratchet and what's-her-face Sasha, I'm expecting her to vanish like Angela did. We'll see about that. It's funny how in my first Ratchet and Clank review, I thought that Drek being an evil businessman hit different than your standard mad scientist. And then I get to this game and we get the mad scientist and he ends up being one of my favorite characters in the franchise so far. I love Dr. Nefarious and his butler Lawrence. It's a juxtaposition I've seen a million times, the bumbling villain and his indifferent lackey, but their dynamic is still so good here, and Nefarious speaking mostly in screams just made me laugh more than anything the series has provided me so far.
Say, maybe they'll change your show to Secret Agent Clank. Did you hear that, Lawrence?
You put the wit in twit, sir.
A part of me even wanted him to succeed, because a part of why he became evil was because in his youth, Quark was such a dickhead to this dude. I'm gonna say right now, Quark gets off too easily in this franchise so far. Yeah, you beat him up, he gets humbled, shit, the vid comics you collect constantly hammer in how pathetic he actually is. But considering his previous crimes, straight up, this dude should still be in jail, and he can only be so entertaining before I start to question, why is he still out and about being able to do what he wants? Maybe it's just me, I'd love to hear what you think about this. But I found Up Your Arsenal's brand of satire this go around to not be as bitey as before. Maybe by the end of Going Commando, the writers ran empty on the Paul Verhoeven tank and kept the humor outside of the James Bond stuff to be more straightforward and cartoony. There's a Britney Spears knockoff in this game called Courtney Gears working under Nefarious, promiscuous pop idol extraordinaire that uses her fame and songs to proclaim her want and need for humanity's extinction. Awesome, looking forward to the Kids Bop version already. But that's what I mean with the more straightforward humor. Here's just a Britney Spears parody, and sure, Britney Spears was very popular at this game's release, so let's just reference that. But I don't think that's entirely a bad thing. As long as it's funny, I don't really mind it. And I still laughed plenty thanks to Nefarious, whose humor I find ageless, and the usual antics that Ratchet and Clank found themselves in was more of the stuff I loved previously. Was not ready for Ratchet doing whatever the fuck this was, though.
She always seems so sweet and innocent in her videos. Well, except for that one with the, you know.
So to get this out of the way first, Up Your Arsenal added multiplayer, but I didn't get to really experience this for myself seeing as this is 2022, and the online servers for both the PS2 original and the HD version on the PlayStation 3 have long since shut down. Local play is still an option, but I only had one additional buddy for this and it quickly devolved into Rock'em Sock'em robots with guns. We didn't find this very engaging. If we had 4 players it could have been better, and I can see how this could have been a lot of fun online back in its day. I think Ratchet and Clank's gameplay style could easily translate well into a chaotic multiplayer shoot fest like Halo, but with clowns and robotic chicks. Alas, it's just not possible nowadays, unless you know someone with a private server maybe? Single player is what you got to look forward to, but that ain't so bad because Up Your Arsenal might be the best of the bunch so far. Like, I'm still weighing between what I think is the better game, this one or Going Commando. If we're talking just consistency, then Up Your Arsenal wins by a country mile. Firstly, it does away with paywalls, which I will state again was never that big of a deal for me considering I always had enough bolts to pay up, but I was still not down with the idea of it, so to see them completely removed is a step in the right direction, and my god, the amount of bolts I saved up by the endgame was frankly ridiculous, so next time I definitely won't be so conservative. But that's another thing, in this game you can now test out weapons in VR before you make a dedicated purchase, and it was because of this that I knew that my money was good for the investment right then and there, or best spent elsewhere like another weapon or an armor upgrade that keeps me alive longer, something that once again, I'm glad I had by the final third of the game considering just how hard some of these goons smacked me for. Similar to my Mega Man 11 experience, every game with weapons needs to have a VR simulation like this, just so you can really get an idea how a weapon or tool works. Love this inclusion. This game also pretty much removed all the extra gameplay elements from last time. Outside of basic platforming, which itself has either been downplayed or isolated into these separate arena challenges that still supply the challenge but is nowhere near as organic as before. There's no rail grinding here, no air gliding, no levitation, there are no hoverbike race sections, they completely removed the starship battles. 1 or 2 times you can ride this dune buggy that's more of a multiplayer element than a dedicated single player tool, And then there's this hovercraft that's also used sparingly in the game's single player. I don't consider these frequent enough to be considered full-out replacements. And I'm frankly torn on this because yeah, while I did have my issues with some of these elements beforehand, I still considered them to be as part of the core gameplay as much as the run and gun stuff. I don't think the best solution would be to outright remove them, unless it was unanimously despised. So with that said, maybe you can make the argument for the Starship battles being cut. If it's possible or conceivable, I think it'd be best if the different gameplay elements were fine-tuned to the highest standard. That way, you satisfy the crowd who liked them previously, and you convince those who weren't so convinced last time. I want to make clear, I know in this game's case the crunch development was a factor in the removal of these elements. I'm just speaking more in general terms at this point. But at the same time, because of those removed elements, this game never fucking stops. Again, it is so consistent now. It's a combat-filled adrenaline rush that gives you plenty of new tools to use, plenty of bad guys to mow down, and more explosions than you can count. So much more, in fact, that the slowdown was at its most obnoxious here. Again, I have been playing the original PlayStation 2 releases of these games, so I'm sure this really isn't a thing in the HD collection. But I don't know, sometimes I think the slowdown added to the combat appeal. Felt very Matrix at times, watching Ratchet doing his strafe jumps in slow motion and all that, which, speaking of real quick, holy fuck you guys. So I want to make it known that the control style I picked for my first playthrough of Up Your Arsenal was the new Lock Strafe mode. Essentially a third-person mode with twin-stick shooter controls. It worked like a dream, combat never felt so smooth. This is how I'm going to play Ratchet and Clank games from now on, assuming they all have this control style. But the number of people that were up my ass in the last two videos because apparently I didn't use the strength enough for them. The games are still more than playable. I think I said I enjoyed both games anyway. It's my first time at that.
So right now, what I need is for you to climb down out of my ass.
And another thing, why would I know about the Insomniac Museum and Going Commando? I don't watch long plays before playing the games for myself, guys. I go in them blind. Jesus Christ, if I don't talk about it, it ain't the end of the world. Don't make me the Joker in this journey, but I do appreciate that sweet, sweet viewer engagement. Anyway, Up Your Arsenal, man, what a cozy joyride. The RPG elements of Going Commando have been brought back, so killing things will eventually upgrade your weapons to be stronger and make you sturdier for tougher encounters. The same gratifying gameplay that I loved about Going Commando is very much alive here, and because of the removal of paywalls, you always have plenty of bolts to buy new weapons and armor as soon as they're available, but also complementing this is the new bolt multiplier that doubles the number of bolts and experience you get for a limited time. Watch those numbers start flying amidst all the chaos. There's even a new Inferno power-up that makes you temporarily invincible and gives Ratchet a mean swing with his wrench. It one-shots everything that isn't a boss. You could look at it as a replacement for your wrench upgrades. That was a thing in Going Commando, but I guess they figured it was better implemented as a temporary power-up here, and I think it works, especially for arena battles. I'm not going to waste too much time on the shit Up Your Arsenal didn't exactly fix from Going Commando, like the D-pad stuff. My friend Kevin, Golden Bolt Kevin, informed me that this is going to be a continued thing until the PS3 era, so I still got to use the quick wheel as designed. They did streamline the quick switch though. You had to press triangle twice in the other games, and while functional, it was awkward. Here you only got to press triangle once, and you can switch between the last 3 weapons you use, which I ended up really liking. They also straight up added a second quick select wheel, so now you can have a wheel dedicated to weapons and one dedicated to tools for the small number of times you actually use them. I appreciate them combining the dynamo and the swing shot into one tool though. That's the kind of streamlining I want to see. And in terms of door puzzles, you now have these Tyrannoid rhythm games, which I didn't mind too much. And then you have these hacker mini games, which I did like more than the Electrolyzer from Going Commando. Nevertheless, I do think these games went on too long in some cases, especially in a game like Up Your Arsenal where things are always moving a mile a minute. It made these feel even more abrupt than your standard door puzzles. Level design has been both streamlined and compromised to a degree. I can't immediately recall an instance that required backtracking outside of something optional, like getting some of the Going Commando weapons because I had a save file from my previous adventure. That got a bit annoying too. I go through like half of the game with only the lava gun and mini turret available, and then suddenly the bouncer's available. Alright, I gotta go back and get the bouncer. I do another planet and then the plasma coil is available. Alright, gotta go back and get the plasma coil now. And then later the shield charge. Slim, my man, just airmail me this shit next time, my dude. God. Only a select few planets have multiple pathways that either lead to the next plot important area or an extra upgrade for Ratchet. Most planets are just straight shots to the end objective, and it's mostly combat centric. Platforming is still an element of Up Your Arsenal, but you'll only find it in the bulk of these optional arena challenges or VR simulations and these handful of quirk segments that are sort of like Mega Man. And I also thought of Earthworm Jim. The graphic art for these levels were almost a dead ringer for that series, as well as the gun. I think it was the gun that also reminded me of the series. Anyway, you jump and shoot and climb ladders. It's Mega Man. Controls well enough, you can punch things and shoot in multiple directions, but there's not much else to these. Excellent source of bolts though. Clank's significance in his puzzle-solving antics have also been downsized. Drones are sparsely used outside of the occasional command. You're doing more things with this monkey and a banana more than anything else you interact with. but even these don't tease your brain like the other games did. Clank also only gets one kaiju section that I can recall, and it's nowhere near as hectic as in Going Commando, but I can take that as a good and bad thing in my eyes considering how insane those sections got last time. Still, only having one here is a bit of a downgrade. So if you really enjoyed the platforming part of previous games, you will no doubt notice the de-emphasis of it here. Like, there's still plenty of it, but it's clear that wasn't the focus. Let's put it this way, I ended up scoring about 13 platinum bolts just by playing normally. In this game, these don't require nearly as much effort to get, but I'm happy I got enough to get the tuxedo for Ratchet. That hairpiece is fucking atrocious though. Why did they give him that? As the name Up Your Arsenal implies, the focus was on your ass, arsenal. Something this game does tremendously well, it's so fun. Like Going Commando, your weapons are no slouch from the very beginning, and with them upgrading in no time at all, it never feels like you're inadequate for an upcoming battle. I love that they gave the shotgun a charge shot in this game. It eats up ammo like crazy, but against some boss battles, it completely shredded their health. The Spitting Hydra, which later becomes the Tempest, instantly became one of my favorites early on. It's this game's plasma coil, but its auto-targeting is second to none. You can target a lot of goons at once, and its splash damage is insane. It's perfect for grounded and aerial threats, as was the Annihilator. This son of a bitch packed so much power that it was what I immediately whipped out whenever I saw a dropship or one of those larger mechs. Eventually, my crowd control gun became the Rift Inducer. You shoot out a miniature black hole and everything close just instantly dies. It doesn't always work on the larger enemies, but when it's later upgraded, the damage output is so high anyway that it doesn't matter. Those Galactic Ranger missions were a total cakewalk with this bad boy. To further rub salt on the wound, you can still get the best weapons from Going Commando as well. This game gives you some amazing weapons already, but here's the Bouncer and Plasma Coil anyway. They nerfed the ammo count, yeah, but that didn't matter considering all the other options I still had available. I even found use for the lava gun this go around. It was perfect for that sewer area where you go and collect purple crystals, essentially this game's version of the Desert and Ice Planet from Going Commando, without the unnecessarily large map. I ended up not going after every crystal this go around. I didn't want to waste too much time like before, and you can't even completely comb this area without the gravity boots. Out of curiosity, I did go back after getting them, but this revisit was not fun. It's super disorienting because you're always in gravity mode, so to speak, so the camera gets easily twisted. Not to mention, if you don't have the mapper, you can't even determine your exact location here for some reason, and that's so weird. I think this is the only area in the game where you just don't have a map for no fucking reason. So, I'm good. I got plenty of bolts from other means anyway. Frankly, what I find so damn impressive about all of this is that the game still managed to be a ton of fun despite its crunch developmental period. I don't condone that practice at all. I'd rather developers have the time needed to make the game they really want without succumbing to deadlines whenever possible, but if it means anything, especially as someone playing this for the first time nearly 20 years after the fact, this game is fantastic. It's lost a bit of identity from Going Commando, and it's clear in hindsight where corners were cut to save on development time. I mean, the arena battles are practically ripped wholesale from Going Commando. I am still amazed this game turned out as good as it did despite the circumstances. Once again, I didn't get bored, I didn't get frustrated, the weapons were great, the combat was smooth, the boss fights were stellar, no obnoxious HP sponges this time, and no Yetis. That could be enough to put up your arsenal above Going Commando. That argument could be made. It has an entertaining story with a supremely entertaining villain.
Auto-destruct sequence initiated. Prepare to die.
Lawrence, teleport us out of here.
Of course, sir.
Lawrence? This isn't funny, Lawrence!
I see now why this is considered one of the best. Yeah, it's damn good. But I still highly recommend Going Commando as well. You can play both, no sweat, it ain't a competition, guys. But have we finally reached the peak? Now, I'm not really sure myself, but compared to the other two games, I never really hear anyone talk about the last of the PS2 games, Deadlock. Now, was it because it was a step down compared to Up Your Arsenal and Going Commando, or was it because it was a late PlayStation 2 title? I'm very curious to step in and see for myself. However, since we're getting close to the end of this marathon, I figured I'd get started on the second marathon I have planned for the summer, and for those that attended this year's Too Many Games, you already know what I have in store. If not, well, you'll see for yourself. But as always, thank you all for watching. Stay safe, wash your hands, wear a mask if you decide to go outside, get vaccinated if it's possible. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, ring the bell, have yourself a fantastic, you know what, I think I have a way to get rid of this fucking bloated outro starting with the next video. Well, maybe not the next video, but the video after that. We'll wait and see.